Welcome back to Kryptolytix, giving you a fresh take on crypto analytics. In today's video, I'm just going to go over a quick market update and cover a few of the things that I'm seeing in the crypto market using a series of Bitcoin charts. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so here we are on the chart that I was showing in the last video on the daily for Bitcoin. And as I mentioned in the last video, is that we were looking pretty overheated. So I guess there's probably a lot of fundamentals that are being attached to this sort of correction so far. Although we haven't really come down, if you ever look like on the daily, we haven't really seen much of a correction as of yet. So we have a few supports there where we could come down to before we start to see a move back to the upside. So in terms of correction, we could easily come down to levels like 25. And so the confluence there is we have this top here as now support. We also have the 200 period smooth moving average on the daily with the 21 coming up every day. And the 21 right now is sitting at about 24,700. But as we know with moving averages, they move up with price or down with price, depending on where it is. So what I could see here is if we keep correcting for a few more days, the 21 might come up to the $25,000 level with the 200 there, and this horizontal would probably be a pretty good support, as well as hopefully giving the stochastic time to come down a bit. There was a hidden bullish divergence here, I did notice, but it hasn't played out just yet. Now we do have a lower low on the RSI with a lower low on price. We have rebounded a bit and we're still within this box. This box is kind of the range that we're setting at the moment. So we had this channel here that we were trading within, but that's now been broken down and now we're just within this box. So a close below this box is basically confirmation of the correction. Just keep in mind, we are at the 618 right now for the entire cycle, last cycle. So that's another reason why this was acting as resistance, because we have the 618 from the last cycle, but also as mentioned in the previous video, we have this cluster of price action here acting as resistance and this cluster of price action here acting as resistance. So this is one of the reasons why we have started correcting here, plus the Tom DeMark TDSS9 and also the stochastic at the top. So, and then we had obviously had a series of bearish divergences. So we'll have to see how far down we come from here, or if this is just a small wick, but I believe that there's a good chance we'll come down a little more before we find the ground and then collect ourselves before a potential move back up. One thing we can definitely see though is that funding's definitely turned negative. So that means that the bears have come back out and they're definitely taking out positions, but the funding is not overly negative, to be honest. It's only really quite small. So it's just a blip. And the other thing that's interesting as well is we do have a lower low, although it's just a wick, it's not a close, but we do have a lower low on the 4 hour, but we have a higher low on the spot cumulative volume delta, which is a divergence. So spot's definitely buying this up and we'll probably continue to buy this as we potentially move back down, but we don't have anything convincing on the 4 hour chart of a proper trend down yet. All we really have is sideways action. If we have a look at the open interest profile, which is this indicator right here, there's a still good chance that there's a lot of positions sitting here holding their longs who might cut them, or they are just basically liquidity that might get hunted. So this level here, a lot of positions opened, and with some of the funding rates being as high as it was around this level, then I'm guessing they were longs, because if we zoom out here, we can see the funding rate was very high around here. So there is a good chance that these positions already took profit and already closed, because you can see this massive reduction in open interest on this price level, meaning that a lot of positions closed around here. But there is a good chance that a lot of positions are still open here. So there's a good chance that price will gravitate to this level, which is around 24,700, or maybe people will start to cut their positions to add to sell pressure. as we get closer to there because they don't want to close at a loss at the very least. So this is one of the things that causes price to move faster in a specific direction. Having a quick look at the DXY, and we are no longer in our short-term uptrend. We've definitely broken down on that. If we have a look at the 2 hour at the linear regression channel, we definitely have a clear downtrend. So we seem to be stuck within this range here between this bar at the top and I would say this dotted line here, or I would say this bar is probably down here is probably a good one to be looking at. So if we do keep coming down, then I guess the DXY is probably going to head to about the 100 level, which was a support around here. So, you know, if we do keep coming down, then there's a good chance that that's going to be probably one of the next places we come to. So if we come down here and that's support there as well, you know, we might gravitate to this area on the DXY. On the weekly smooth moving averages on Bitcoin, we definitely could not break the 50 period smooth moving average. So this is the blue line here. And as I did say, this is going to be major resistance. We're also getting a reversal signal here, which is a cumulative volume index based indicator. Basically, it uses cumulative volume in order to work out potential tops and bottoms. It's not perfect, obviously, but you know, you can look at the top here, look at the top here, you know, look at the bottom here, bottom here. We had a brief move up, move up. I mean, this was, you know, you probably didn't want a long here, but this little tops and bottoms indicator is actually really cool. It's just called tops and bottoms, and yes, it uses cumulative volume index to work that out. So it's printing right now a top. So again, giving us confluence for a move to the downside. Though when we look at the weekly RSI, we didn't actually get a bearish divergence or anything like that. So I feel like this is going to be just a healthy correction, something that's required before a bigger move to the upside, or at least like 30 to 32K. Or we break down and test the lows again, but that really remains to be seen. We still have that strong support around 18,300. So any of the bears who are looking at even lower than that, I feel like that's just going to be really, really hard to break with the log regression channel moving up with time. So we have just a bit of confluence around here. But again, I just feel like the 21 will act as strong support, which right now is around 24, and it was around 24.5 on the daily. So we've just got this, all of these price levels all matching up to act as strong support, and the 100 smooth moving average on the weekly also coming in at around 24,000. So there's just a lot of support around here. So nothing to worry about for the time being, but yes, we could get some sort of aggressive move to the downside. But if we see it get quickly bought up, then that's a really good sign. Something that I'm going to cover on a future video is the Keltner channel and a trading strategy that's built within this. So I'm actually looking at this at the moment, and this is actually a really, really cool trade setup where it uses average true range and the Keltner channel. So any strong break outside of the Keltner channel with the DMI on the chart here, which is the directional movement index, just shows us how strong a particular trend is in any given direction. At least on Bitcoin, anything above 25 is pretty strong. So if we get a break outside of the channel with this being above 25, it's actually a very good sign of the strength of a particular trend. Although, you know, we can get faked out in certain circumstances. Like here we had the FOMC meeting, which just was a lot of volatility. So you definitely can get false signals around there. But if we have a look and see how this has performed, say in the past, where if it's broken out above, for example, you know, we've got a break above the channel here with the directional movement index above the 25 line, we have a very convincing trend break, generally speaking. So this is a pretty good, at least confirmation, if you're in any shorts at the moment, that we should get some more movement to the downside. But at the moment, the average true range for the current break is around 25,000 as well, 25,100, at least in this case. So in terms of trading this as a strategy, it's actually really, really, really nice. So this is trading this Keltner channel break as a strategy. And well, it's pretty crazy. In the last year, if you used this strategy and you used the stop loss to work out the size of the position, so how far the stop loss is away from the entry, then this has returned about 4 million% apparently, but the max drawdown is pretty extreme. So this is probably a bit more of a dangerous strategy. You would probably want to isolate the account, that's for sure. This is going off $1,000 account size and $1,000 position sizing, basically. But I'm going to go into a lot more detail on this one in the future once I've tested it myself, because this is actually a bot that just automatically runs, and I'll cover this on a future video. So as we can see on our log regression chart, or the other log regression chart, we have basically hit that resistance, as I mentioned before, which is the lows back in 2021 at the start, and then mid 2021, this little band here, and then also we had support here. So this is a very strong level. Just technically, this was bound to act as resistance, as I said in the last video when I said we were overheated. And surely enough, we're coming back down. We have the bull market support band coming up with time, and it's at the moment, the top of the band is sitting at around 23,000, coming up every week, essentially. So we're still on track. Things still look bullish. It's healthier for us to correct every now and then rather than just go parabolic up, because if we go parabolic up, what goes up hard comes down harder when it comes to crypto. So it's healthy that we're getting a small pullback here. Remains to be seen how far we'll pull back, but we do have a lot of support below. So whale retail delta, looks like the whales are still not very convinced in this small correction. So we'll have to see if they flip the script, but it looks like they went in pretty hard to the dip here. So we have a lot of whales actually buying around this level, whether that's smart money, big money, or just big money. It could mean from a contrarian perspective that we have a lot of liquidations and stops to the downside, or if you just want to follow the big money and, you know, swim where the big fish are swimming, then this could be a bullish bounce signal. So make of that what you will. So just another quick thing that I've been looking at on the AgriTrade chart is, and as I said, when we're looking yellow here, things are overheated. So we were yellow here, or this kind of dark orange color. Typically when we get to these sorts of levels, unless we're in a bull market, a proper bull market, then generally speaking, it's just a sign that things are overheated. We've closed back within the SMA VWAP bands. So generally when there's a close back inside the bands after a big run up and a big break outside of the bands, then it's quite often that we come and retest or come back to the middle of the channel. Now, we might not come back to the middle of the daily channel, but there is a good chance we come back to the middle of the 4-hour channel. As we can see the last time that this happened, where we broke out above it and then we closed back inside of it, which we actually did over here if you're looking at the 4-hour channel. We definitely came back down to the middle of the bands. However, those were broken and failed to hold, and then came down to the bottom of the band. Now you're probably wondering what this crazy thing down the bottom here. This is actually really cool. This is a stochastic heat map. So this is basically stochastics across multiple time frames, visualized as candle color and as a map down the bottom. So when you have this big array of red, which we actually haven't had since over here back at the start of the year when we had that massive parabolic pump to the upside, generally that is definitely a sign of things being overheated. It's not often you get red candles on this, but we had a series of red candles back at the start of March where we started entering our range, our trading range. But on the daily, I like it a lot better because it's just a lot easier to read. So at least when it comes to this heat map, a correction here should give us back some yellow or green candles. So again, with this sort of thing, if you buy the blue and you sell the orange, if you did that at least since the start of the year, so in this case, buying the blue or the purple is really low. That's like everything is super oversold. But yeah, if you bought at least since the start of the year, if you bought the blue or the purple and sold the red, that was pretty good. And then if you bought the green here, this green here, sold the orange, and that's at the top of the band here, that was pretty nice. If you bought down here, well, it did keep coming down, but if you use this as confluence here, and you bought the blue here with this, along with this line, and then you sold the orange. Again, that's very nice. So you're talking about 20,000 to 28,000. Very nice. You're talking about 16,000 to, what was the first orange candle? I would say here, or if you waited for the top of the band, you probably didn't get it there, but at least here, that's 23,000, around that level there. So, I mean, that's really nice. So comparing the CVDs, so that's the blue line here in the background and the green line here in the background, you can see that perpetuals, or at least that is leverage traders, have been fading this pump very aggressively. So you can see here that we've been going sideways within like what looks like a horizontal channel, but the perpetuals have just been aggressively shorting and selling off, or at least maybe closing long positions. Spot is selling off as well. So we have just a very gentle slope down. Spot is basically driving all of this price action, you can tell, because we have this unified bounce here between both spot and leverage positions, both being convinced that this was a time to buy. However, you could see that the leverage traders started fading this around here, and spot actually just kept buying throughout this whole period, but have now convincingly decided to start taking profits on their spot position. So you can definitely see that that's happening here. So what I'm looking for, at least in this heat map, is maybe some green candles or some blue candles. So as we saw with this dip here, we got to green. You could like maybe even start DCAing if you go buying spot through the green in, and then maybe DC out when we start to get to yellow, or take profit when we get to the orange. But nevertheless, if we did come back down here to this, then that would just look like a very strong sideways channel essentially. So I guess it remains to be seen. It'll be interesting to see how far down we come, or even if we come down at all. Like there's no guarantee that we will, but I'm pretty well convinced that we are at least coming down for a correction. Whether we come back down to the mid-level on the SMA VWAP bands, that also remains to be seen, but we'll definitely have to see. So if you came here just for the market update, that's it for the update. I'm going to quickly go through the trading strategy results as they have been in this kind of consolidation period now. So that's it for the analysis. We had a pretty savage time here getting trapped in this consolidation. So this is one thing that is definitely trying when you get stuck in these consolidation periods. It's pretty annoying, and it can actually be quite detrimental to any given strategy when you enter these periods where you get drawdown, because, you know, this is what I was saying before on my trading strategy video with the with all of these ChatGPT generated trading strategy bots. Basically, when you get trapped in consolidation, if you start trading these strategies in the middle of these periods, then that's when it can pretty much wipe out your account before you get a chance to trade. So that's the annoying thing about these sort of strategies, is that, you know, you might come up with them here, and then you take four losing trades in a row, and it's just like, wow, this is not working. So anyway, this was got trapped in consolidation here. I'm not actually using this strategy on ETH so much, not at the moment. I'm actually using the 4-hour Keltner channel, which is what I showed you before, now for the ETH trades. But this is definitely a convincing break and hold below the 21 period smooth moving average, with the 21 here. If we quickly go through some of the other ones that I'm watching the 4-hour PSAR with AAVE. That was a convincing break here, and with, you know, some profit taken at the 10% mark. And we had the short here. We did have a long fake out here, and now we've got a convincing short here. For AVAX, I'm using the VMC on the 2-hour, on the 4-hour. So this backtest has been really nice, pretty decent win rate. Drawdown has been quite minimal. So that was a long here on this candle down the bottom here, with the flip over here. Now that only reads 7%, but I like to take profit every 10% with AVAX. So that was like 20% was taken off the table at 10%. And again, but if you like have a look here, that last one was 26% with a little bit of profit taken off that. It's just been really nice, the 2-hour VMC. has just been absolutely brilliant. And again, with this particular strategy, you can generally wait for retests. So if you went long here and then you waited for or if you saw the long signal and then you put your buy signal or buy order on the retest of this band, it would have got you into a pretty nice position. At least, if you took some profit off the table, then there's your 10% mark there. But this has just performed very well. It's just nice and gently up and to the right, which has been quite good. So I'm in the short here on AVAX using this particular strategy. I'm also in the Conflux on the PSAR. And now PSAR, just so you all know, stands for parabolic stop and reverse. So just to follow up on this, which I covered in a previous video, basically when we get a break of the PSAR, any close here, the line will move to the downside in at least the long situation and then move its way up. So I took this long here, closed it over here. It's a 100% profit on Conflux. I wish I knew about it back in Feb because I would have taken this to here. That's 300%. This short here was not as good. There's also a loss right next to it. So this was only 8%. The long here was 14% loss, which is not great. And then this from here to here was break even. So yeah, the Conflux short is in and has been in since up here around 38 cents. I am definitely taking a bit of profit. I'm taking profit on this every 20% of price action just because it moves so intensely. But you can see here, like the performance hasn't been the best, but I think a lot of people knew about Conflux until recently anyway. So that's why we're getting a lot more price action on it. But yeah, as we can see, we're convincingly stuck below the 21 period for the time being. And that's the white line here. Having a quick look at Doge, the one that I'm using here is the 8-hour parabolic SAR. However, what I'm using for Dogecoin is actually, I'm not using this as soon as it flips. What I'm doing is I'm actually getting on the retest. Now you do end up missing the retest sometimes, but basically what I'm doing with this one is, so say the break was there down the bottom here, it goes up and then it comes back down, retests the white line on the 21, and then that's your long signal. Short signal would have been there, so you've just basically would have got in here and exited there. That's about 8%. If you entered a short here, that's fine. But yeah, it went up, basically flipped back to long on the retest here. That was your signal to reverse the direction of your trade, although sitting in a 12% loss wouldn't have been very nice. But nevertheless, then that went up to here. Then again, short signal. Didn't need to wait for a retest so much, but it was right there. That was the short. Down to here. Again, we're looking at the white line here because the white line is where the particular trade strategy works best. So again, this is the 8-hour. So short there, and then you closed there. So that's 5%. If you went long here, then your retest is there. So you actually made a small profit or you broke even. And then you entered the short here to the retest there. So there's the blue break, retest there. So that's your 18%, quite nice. Your long signal was there, so the retest is here. And right now you're underwater by about 1%, which is, not too bad. And then we're waiting for that 21 retest in the next couple of days to see where we go from there. So this one here, I'm still trying to figure out how to code this so that it opens positions on retests of the 21 smooth moving average. Now I know there's definitely a way to do it. Unfortunately, ChatGPT hasn't been able to tell me to do it. It's just been telling me when something closes, whereas I actually want it to execute as soon as it touches, because as soon as it touches, that's pretty much what we want. So, it could go down below a little bit or whatever, but just to mark it and flip position, that's what I'm trying to do with Doge. Again, looking at the backtest doesn't look great, but then as soon as you add the retest to the mix, you just saw there on the chart that it's actually really nice. Now, do you miss retests on the odd occasion? Well, yeah, you're going to miss retests. And in those circumstances, you basically, so for example here, well, the retest was down there, so that was fine. Here, retest was there. I mean, it's not often you miss the retest. Doge just seems to always retest. So here, it retested down here, so I actually didn't get you in as good as a, oh wait, the retest. You could say if you're close enough to the 21, then you don't have to actually wait for a retest. But if you're really far from it, then you might as well just wait for the retest. And very rarely does it run without a retest. That's what I'm finding with Doge, except for here back in June 22. So we didn't really get a retest here. So you'd want to make sure that there's at least a stop loss somewhere. Otherwise, that could be really, really bad if you don't actually have any stop loss in and you're just waiting for a retest. So anyway, my favorite strategy for DYDX so far has been the KL lines. So, or the KLs, which is Kryptolytix lines. And this basically has just been up and to the right. Very good % profit, about 465%, 88% win rate. And so $1,000 account, you would now have, you know, an additional 4,650 if you just followed this strategy. So that's again, short here, long here, short here. Well, you would have been underwater for a bit, but there's you're still in the short on DYDX on this. Long, short. I mean, this is brilliant. This is just catching all the trends. I mean, this one would have been beautiful. That's just so nice. So DYDX, we're still in a short at the moment. The short entry signal was right here. So we're actually above that right now. So, I mean, this is something that if you're not in a position and you wanted to take one, still a potential. Personally, I am not in this short. I'm actually just going to wait for the next long signal for DYDX. So I'm not in any short on this, but yeah, I'm keen for the next long signal. That is when I'll take this. For Filecoin, this one is the PSAR 12 that I'm using for this one. And this is now in a short and has been for a while now, since the 25th, which is about 3 days ago, at least in my time zone, Hong Kong time. So basically, this one's still in a short. The long here was pretty bad, I'm going to be perfectly honest. And this is definitely going to happen with a parabolic SAR, because things like Filecoin can get pretty out of hand sometimes when you have these crazy parabolic moves. Without taking any profit on this, this was just basically edge to edge, a 21% profit, which is still pretty nice, with a small loss here. But that's what I'm using at the moment for Filecoin. For Phantom, I'm using the 4-hour PSAR at the moment. So it's been really nice, but it does get stuck in these choppy periods. So these choppy periods are where those times where you sort of give a little back. Although when you have a look here on the performance graph, you know, there's just been a lot of sideways where you've been giving a bunch back, then you've been making profit. So Phantom is one of these ones where you really need to exercise a lot of patience, because it does get stuck in these horrible periods of consolidation. And we did have one of those just recently. So we had a nice long signal here, and then they closed there to a short with a loss, and 2 losses back to back that were pretty bad. So Phantom is still pretty good in my opinion. I still like it, but it does go through these sideways periods where you basically win, then you lose, then you win, then you lose, and you just go for long periods of time of sideways, and then you get this big run up, essentially, where you get several back-to-back big wins. So this is what I'm finding with Phantom, is that, you know, it's still nice, but this would be very frustrating where you're just in a sideways channel. But again, if this is automated as a bot, you don't really have to pay attention to it. It just does its thing. So I'm working on getting this turned into a bot at the moment, just so I can automate this and not really pay any attention to it. I am in the short at the moment for Phantom. So I opened a small short position and then basically was going to add to it at the 21 retest, but actually never got back there. So I'm just in a very small short on this one at the moment. The graph, I'm using the 12-hour PSAR, and it has just flipped to short. So again, we had a loss here as it happens, but that's pretty much what we're looking at here with this PSAR. Again, really good, decent returns for the last year on a $1,000 trade size, but with a decent chunk of sideways consolidation or choppy, not the best sort of trading win rate, unfortunately, with this. But you know, these things definitely happen. The looks rare chart is one of my favorites, and I took both the long and the short on this one. So it looks rare. I got into the long on this one over here on the retest of the 21, and I was taking profit on this one. Again, 20% I took at the 10% mark, and I took 10% at the 20% mark. So I literally grabbed the top before it flipped down. So what looks like a break-even trade, I actually still made money on that. So the looks rare short has been in since around here. I actually did the short on the retest, Again, you don't always get these retests. So for example, in this situation back here in Feb, if you waited for a retest on this, then well, you just never would have got into this entire short until down here. Which still, if you were just sticking to your guns and just waiting for that retest, still a 40% short. But to be honest, you know, that's an 87% short if you just got in on the signal. So again, this one I'm pretty happy with just getting in on the signals, because when I look at this, the shape of this is just up and to the right in terms of its performance, decent win rate, drawdown, max drawdown's only 16%. So I'm happy with just taking signals on this one. You know, again, like giving a bit back here, but just these really nice, strong trends. The Lunar 2-hour has been really quite nice on the PSAR. Again, going through these long periods of just sideways, which, you know, would be very frustrating for sure. But with Lunar, I am working on retests. So in this case, long was here, and with a few profit points were taken, and then basically with the short, I entered the short here, and then I basically just had a stop loss here. So it just got me out there. With the long here, I basically entered my long on here on this retest here, and then nothing was really taken in terms of profit, unfortunately, except I was able to bank about 3% here because we closed above the 21, so I just got in immediately. Short went from down here to here with some profit taken along the way. It was a 10% with the absolute drawdown to 17. So again, it was just straight from 21 to here. I did enter the long. It was underwater, and I basically just stopped it out around here when I saw that it couldn't hold and convincingly close above the 21. So again, here is where I stopped out around this area here. So I'm actually waiting for a retest now of the 21 before getting into the Lunar short position. So again, you could just take the signal to signal, but I just find it's just sometimes better if you wait for a retest, but not in all circumstances, because, you know, I just like to stop out on the line a lot of the time and then enter on the signal. But yeah, look, this crazy March 3rd, massive dump on Lunar. Anyway, so that's pretty much that for that. MATIC, I just can't find a strategy that works really nicely. So I was using the 2-hour on MATIC, but this was just terrible in my opinion. So this long was just a massive loss. There's 3 back-to-back losses. And then this long here was a loss. The short was a very, very small win. There's nothing convincing to me with regards to this. It's just like really like decent returns, 180%, but I'm just not a fan of these back-to-back losses. So I've stretched this out to the 12-hour, and the 12 hours actually in the process of being broken. Well, it's actually already signaled to go short. So for MATIC, I'm going to probably try and catch the next move up or the move down, as in if we keep correcting. Though for MATIC, where we pretty much hit the bottom, we hit the 50% already for this entire move since the bottom. So that was the 50% if you look at Fibonacci's. And so we bounced off that, came back up, and then we're back down again. So for MATIC, I will take this short on the next retest above. For NIA, I'm not a big fan of NIA in terms of just following these signals. I did have the 12-hour parabolic SAR, but I just don't like these big losses. It's 13% and then 14%. And the thing about NIA is it doesn't really retest the 21 on its signals, so you pretty much have to take it as it comes. So in this case, at least on the 12-hour, it's about to enter its short, I guess. So for REN, I like the KL lines. KL lines for REN is just a really nice trend. It's 800% in the last year. Very high win rate. Max drawdown can get pretty bad, to be honest, 66%. But again, you're looking at 900% in the last, well, basically not last year, because I don't think this has been going for a whole year. But the 1 hour, I just really quite like this. So I'm just taking this as a straight bot-like signal on this. So again, this one here was short over here on this candle here. This basically where it came back up. That was where it flipped to the short side, and so we're just sitting in this one and have been since the 23rd. And right now that one's up 12% essentially. And the long was really nice too. this crazy wick. That's insane. Look at that. Just got sold off so aggressively. I'm guessing there was just a lot of long-term spot positions that were holding and just aggressively sold off on that, or I'm not really sure, but this is one of the China narrative coins. So maybe this one was just aggressively sold off on its pump because it was just way too parabolic, which makes sense. For RSR, this one is just being taken each signal as it comes. Again, you get these choppy periods of horribleness, and that's just kind of part of the game with these PSAR strategies, is you get these horrible sideways periods where you just basically you give a bunch of your profit back. So again, if you went from here to here, the signal that's 30%, but then you basically give that all back. Well, not really 30. You have 10% still if you followed this from signal to signal, and then you get 15% back. And then from here to here was 18%, but then you lose 11% of that. So, it's a gradual way up where you take a win, and then you take some losses, and then you take a big win. This one, is kind of a set and forget, probably on a low capital, just because the periods of sideways can be pretty savage. But then when you do get those trending moves, it's quite nice. Solana's been one of the best performers on the 2-hour. Again, you go through these periods of sideways or where it does these false breaks. It's quite annoying, but I've found with Sol, it just seems to work. So I just take the Sol signals. And the one thing I like about Solana is it's very common that Solana retests its 21 period. So this one, if you're above the 21, then you just get in because, there's no need to wait for a retest because you're above the 21 in a short period. But yeah, in this case, I am in the short over here. I did take the short here, and I did take a little bit of profit. Then it went long for a false signal, which was very annoying. Again, this seems to happen a lot with Solana, at least on the 2-hour. You can actually stretch out the time period though to increase the win rate. But with Solana, this one is I just take this from signal to signal, and it's currently up at the moment quite a bit. So it's up about 8%. But again, this one's just nice, kind of up and to the right. And lastly, we have Waves. Waves is a short. This one's been in for quite some time. Just been holding on to this short the whole time. It's up 8% at the moment. Again, with these KLs, you can often get in on retests on Waves, but you're not guaranteed to get in the best spot. But I found with Waves that retests is kind of how I like to enter. So in this case, we had this long here. There was kind of a retest here, but it didn't really quite get into it. So I guess what you could do with this sort of thing is, if it comes down to retest, you've got your long in there in this situation. If it doesn't quite get there, then you probably have a stop long here as well. So it's just like, if it doesn't make its way to your entry, then it just enters as soon as, on the same level as the retest. Okay, so that wraps up for the trading strategy performance update. Now, with regards to these trading strategies, these are all getting converted into bots. So if you would like to trade these signals and not even pay attention to it, so it just does it automatically for you, then in a future video, I'm going to be doing that. I'm just working on getting that all tested and making sure it's all working before doing a video on it, because I want to make sure that everything's all good and that all the options are there and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, if you'd like to follow some of these strategies without actually even doing anything and just let it, I guess, turn into a money printer, so to speak, I'll only be using strategies that have backtested sort of up and to the right in terms of their performance. I won't be doing these with anything that has these significant drawdowns. Again, a lot of these have sideways choppy periods, which is quite annoying. But the idea with all of these, like any trading, is that you overall are profitable, because with any trading strategy, there's going to be losses, right? You're going to enter losses, you're going to go through periods of sideways consolidation. All of these strategies really do depend on trends, on trending markets. So if we enter a sideways market, which we very well could this year, especially I say Q2, which we're entering about midway through the year, I think we'll probably enter like just real sideways and real kind of boring sort of period. And then by the end of the year, I'll sort of come back to a nice ranging market. But that also, I have no idea. exactly what's going to happen, but that's just kind of how these things work in terms of the cyclical nature. There's a whole sell in May and go away period, and then people come back. A lot of these big money traders, they'll make their money in the last quarter and the first quarter of every year, and then basically your Q2 and Q3 are kind of sideways a lot of the time, or just kind of boring. It doesn't happen every time, obviously, but this is just sort of a typical trend with markets. So anyway, hope you learned something from this video. If you did, please give the video a like and subscribe if you like this content. And if you want a list of all of these trading strategies that I covered in this video, you'll find them in the links in the description below, where I also have my spreadsheet, which has all of the back testing and which of the symbols that I've backtested, which my favorite time frame is. Now, the backtested data in the spreadsheet is not 100% accurate as to where we are right now, because I did that spreadsheet a month ago, but there's a few that I have updated in there, and the ones that I've really focused on have been the top performers. So the ones that have performed best have up-to-date information on them. So anyway, keep safe out there. This is Kryptolytix signing out. Have a good one.